Hello, everybody, and good morning. My name is Ricardo Cabrera, and I'm the operations manager here at the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Boulder County. And today we are having back our guest, J.R. Kuo from Coffee with J.R. And J.R., he's a professional speaker. He is a mental health, diversity, and inclusion trainer. So he does this for a living and talks to companies about all these important topics. And he's our guest today for the third time. Well, that was five. Here we go. The third time. So welcome, JR. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you very much. Enjoying this super hot weather. For those who are just watching this today, we're having like record-breaking heat for the past 3 days, and it's going to go on for a few more days. So besides that, I am loving it. JR is going to talk to us today about mental health tools and strategies. So meaning mental health tools and strategies for people that you know have experienced racism and sexism, hate through discrimination, and how we can help them. So this is something happened, and now we're the brother, we're the friend, we're the cousin or coworker, and how can we help them reconcile, get through this, and help. So JR, before we start talking about work, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, all right. Oh man, life is good right now. Life is good. I am enjoying the summer. I have a little small golden doodle. She's 12 pounds. Her name is Lola. And even though the weather's hot, she loves hot weather. So I love hiking, I love walking, so I'm just excited, taking her out on walks, on the hikes, just be out there in the nature. So life is good.
Excellent, and this shows that you are a happy man, and it shows in everything you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and with that, let's get to work, because this is an important topic, and you have a lot to offer, and we're going to try to do it all in a reasonable amount of time. So, mental health tools and strategies. Take
awesome.
It away.
Thank you. Thank you, Ricardo. And by the way, thank you so much, Ricardo, for inviting me and for this opportunity. Of course, I want to thank the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Boulder County. And of course, whoever's watching this video, thank you so much for watching and supporting us. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the mental health impact of experiencing hate, discrimination. It could be in the form of racism, sexism, and homophobia. I speak in for myself as a person of color, as Asian American. As like people like us, marginalized people, we experience these what we call microaggression, these subtle discrimination, these offensive jokes on a daily basis. Movie, TV shows love to throw these offensive jokes at us, and it sucks. It hurts. And just imagine if you experience this in person, whether it's through someone that you think you could trust, through just a stranger, through with a coworker, it hurts. And I've been told, go back to where you're from. A lot of time, me as a male man, Asian male man, my sexuality get made fun of over and over, through TV show. It hurts. Mm-hmm. Black man, black woman, Hispanic man and woman, how often they all those derogatory words and phrases thrown at them. Mm-hmm. And just imagine the mental health impact behind these repeated, disrespectful things thrown at us. It can easily cause trauma. And I'm going to share my slide with you all to just share with some data. So using racism as example, mental health impact from racism. So, according with CDC, Black people, for example, and people of color, likely to have hypertension. Hypertension comes from stress and can often result from racist experience. People of color that have experienced racism also experience depression, emotional distress, anxiety, and PTSD, a form of trauma. and suicidal thoughts. Black adults are 20% more likely to report serious psychological distress than white adults due to racism. Again, I can go on with all these research data on the detrimental effect of racism on people of color, or just effects of hate and discrimination on marginalized people. So, but due to mental health stigma, we don't like to talk about mental health. We don't acknowledge mental health openly because mental stigma runs deeply within our cultures. This may be due to religious reason, faith, cultural values, language barrier, lack of understanding, fear or unknown, to name a few, and the field mental health is relatively new to our people and our cultures too. So you have probably heard phrases like this that like, we have to keep it within the family. We do not want to shame our family. Speaking for immigrant, Asian, I'm an immigrant, immigrant family. We are barely surviving here. We can't afford to talk about mental health. Or, the moment I talk about it, then I'm admitting that there's something wrong with me, with us. Or I did something wrong. Well, another thing, I have to be successful and I cannot show any signs of weakness. I don't want to burden my family, my friends. If I talk about, again, this immigrant mentality that like, if I talk about it, I'm ungrateful for all I have, all the hard work that my parents have put me through, and I want to say that like, I hear you, I feel you, because stigma is real. It's very scary and uncomfortable. And delay response to trauma like experiencing racism, trauma from experiencing sexism. Just imagine, using racism example, using a couple of my Black friends example, getting pulled over by cops 3-4 times per year for no reason. Or as a Hispanic, I know a couple of my Hispanic friends, they get pulled over a lot for no reason, simply racial profiling. Just imagine, I got pulled over by cops twice in my life. I almost shit in my pants. Excuse my language, So just imagine the trauma that we went through, and this is just, for a lot of us, this is like, I'm talking about daily, monthly basis. And if we don't address these trauma, these mental health issues, delay response to these traumas can cause what? Sleep disorders, nightmares, depression, anxiety, panic attack, chronic fatigue. Ultimately, it's going to impact the quality of our lives. In other words, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can easily get stuck in the cycle of constant stress and trauma, which can bring additional burden and pain to our life and hinder our quality of life. And the worst, most likely will pass on these stress and trauma down to our children. This is called generational trauma. The good news is that there's always hope. Recovery is very possible. Like physical wounds or illness, if you hurt your leg, you need to slow down, clean the wound, let your leg heal. Similar to our mental health, when we don't feel good, having depressive states or anxiety, we need to slow down and heal ourselves, heal our brain, heal our emotions. The old stigma tells us that once you have mental health issues, you're done. You're done for the rest of your life. The reality is that like most mental health challenges, like physical wounds, can be healed if you take care of it. The reason it feels like our mental health issue lasts forever is because we don't take the time to heal ourselves. Thus, when it comes to our emotional and mental health, we need to re-educate ourselves and tell ourselves that it's okay to talk about our trauma, our feelings, our mental health, because there's always hope and recovery is possible. And now I'm going to show you how we can support. Again, I'm using this overcoming anti-Asian racism as an example. How can we support each other when you know front of yours that has gone through traumatic event through racism or through hate, and it's called providing mental health support. And here are the 5 tools: check in, reassure, listen, support, and refer. And I'm going to go through these very, very fast. So check in. Express your concern and show that you care by asking questions. Never, ever assume. Why ask questions? So you don't come out as accusatory or judging. And you don't want to assume that because you know them, that you know exactly what they are going through. No, you don't. You might have similar experiences, but you don't know what exactly they are going through. I like to say that 2 people can be in the same car accident, but 2 people might have very different experience. One person might not be able to drive anymore through the trauma. One person might just shake it off and pop into another car and drive away. Same thing when people experience racism and sexism, we'll experience differently. Yes, it hurts on different level, but we'll experience differently. So here are some of the specific ways that you can ask. These are simple yet powerful questions. Very different from saying that I know what exactly you're feeling. You should just get over it. No, that sentence never helps. Instead, saying that, hey, I haven't seen you around lately. How are you? So the first one is just, again, casually check in, and ask. The second one, before I move on, how can I help? I think that's one of the most powerful questions that we can ask, both personally in our personal life and our professional life. How can I help? All right, next one is what we call reassure. Show your support and care by reassuring them. Verbally express your concern and care by providing support. The key word here is support. And here are like specific things that we can say. My favorite one is the second bullet point. How powerful is that sentence? It's hard for me to understand exactly what you are going through, but I can see that it's distressing for you. Please tell me more. Ricardo and I, yes, we are people of color, but Ricardo is Hispanic, descent. So his experience with racism, with xenophobia, could be very different than mine. Yes, we both went through tough shit, yes. However, without knowing what exactly he has gone through, I wouldn't know. And acknowledge that, yes, we both have experienced discrimination, but I don't know what is exactly like you for Ricardo. So let's talk. And please tell me more. So, because one of the best way, and another thing about reassurance, one of the best way is to check in on them on regular basis, on consistent basis, because ultimately it's about them, not about you. All right, next one is what we call listen. And normally when I do this live, I have this trivia. I play this trivia because listen without judgment and interruption. So do the number, follow me here a little bit, do the numbers here. How many words average Americans speak per minute? 125 words per minute. What is the mental capacity to understand someone speak per minute? 400 words. We Americans, we English speakers, we can listen up to 400 words per minute. And do you know how many words average people actually hear and absorb per minute? 75 words. So do the math here a little bit. Average people speak 125 words. We can listen up to 400 words, but we can only hear up to 75 words. Why? Because we are so distracted. We're thinking about lunch right now. Well, I'm thinking about lunch right now. I want to have lunch. I'm thinking about, has anyone liked my Instagram post yet? We're so distracted. Oftentimes, on top of that, we interrupt each other so much. Studies have shown that we interrupt each other about 15 to 20 seconds. So the moment someone starts speaking, we interrupt them about 15 to 20 seconds. Just imagine if your friend, if your coworker, your family finally decide to open up, share something very important, and that person hasn't even finished their third sentence yet, you already shut them down. Boom, the trust is gone. The conversation ended. And I'm giving you another data. They're talking about sexism. Studies have shown that in the workplace, females, women, they get interrupted between 7 to 9 seconds. Even if they are the boss, even if they are the manager, if they are the supervisor. So be aware of interrupting, listen. So ultimately, talking about providing support, listen, shut up and listen. So another thing about listening is that unless they ask for advice, don't give them any advice. Unsolicited advice is not welcome. So because most of the time, people just need someone to listen to them. They just need to vent. You can ask questions only after they have finished talking. So, and be careful about your nonverbal cues, your body language, because 90% of the time when we talk is through our body language. All right, next one. The fourth one is support. Provide consistent support and care. A person may downplay what they are going through to avoid upsetting you, or may not recognize there's a problem. So be aware that a person may not completely open up to you and share everything right there, right now, until they are sure that you really care. So let the person know that you are ready when they are ready. Do not pressure them to talk, to share everything. Ask them, be patient, ask them what they need. Don't assume. Again, it's ultimately about them, not about you. So, and encourage them to talk with someone they trust. Again, it's not about you. Sometimes they might feel more comfortable to talk to another cousin, another co-worker. I know it sucks, but again, it's not about you. It's about their mental health. It's about their experience, what they have gone through. And another thing about support is what I like to use 5 ways to express and experience love and care by Dr. Gary Chapman. Words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of services, and physical touch. Know your loved ones, know the people around you. What are their ways to experience love and care? All of us are different. For example, for me, I don't really care about receiving gifts. Except if you want to give me a Tesla, this whole different story. Let's talk. Let's talk. But normally I don't really care about gifts. What I care a lot is quality time. Let's go get some happy hour. Let's go get coffee. Let's go for a walk. Let's spend time together, So yeah, so some people it's more physical touch. Some people, they care about words of affirmation. I remember when I was running this company back in the days, my assistant, her love and care language is words of affirmation. So what I did is once in a while, I would write on a little sticky note, say, thank you, I appreciate your work, and put it on her desk. Yeah, that's her language of love and care. And the last one, this one is mine, is food. I know we love so yeah, so I often tell people that I'm a cheap date, just give me some beer and like fried chicken. I'm a happy person. So yeah. All right, the last one is what I called refer and encourage professional help. You care and you want to support them and be there for them. At the same time, you are not a trained therapist. There can be a lot of stress and pressure continuing to be, quote unquote, their therapist. It can be draining to your own emotional and mental energy. Ultimately, it's not going to be fair for you and for your mental health. So it's okay to encourage them to seek professional help. Some of you might ask and think about cost and logistics. Use physical health as an example. If you have a broken arm, will you invest in treatment? the answer should be pretty obvious. Similar to mental health, studies have shown that the longer you delay treatment for mental health, the recovery could be more challenging and costly, similar to that broken arm. So again, there are a lot of professionals out there who are trained to help people to process their emotion. There's no shame to see someone, to talk about our mental health. So these are the 5 tools that we can use and provide support to people, especially people around us that have experienced hate and discrimination.
Wow, that's awesome, JR. I love the five different tools and strategies that you have to offer here as the bystander, right? So the whole thing here is, I see my friend going through a hard time, and what can I do to help this individual surpass and get through this particular hard time? It sounds like what I call emotional IQ, and that kind of takes on both sides. The bystander, the one watching, I see somebody having a hard time, and what do I do? As well as the victim, right? I mean, I'm going through a hard time, and I need to first recognize it, and then know how to get through it. Of course, recognizing it is the first step, because you may not even know that you're going through a hard time, which is why the bystander is really important in this environment, in this relationship.
Yes.
So let me ask you this: the way you presented the 5 tools here, and you mentioned a couple of times that follow up and check in and do all these things. It sounds kind of like a job, So give me a little bit of perspective on that, because one thing is to notice my buddy's going through a hard time, and I'm going to use one of the 5 tools. Let's go eat, for example, and tell me all about it and ask questions. But it was just interesting for me that I can check in with a friend, but if it's a coworker, maybe I don't want to take on that responsibility.
Oh, I hear you. Yes. Thank you for the question. So when I say constant check-in, it depends on your relationship.
Yeah.
It's your buddy. Yeah, you can just check in whatever,
Yeah.
So using the coworker example, it can depends on your, how close you two are. Sometimes just a simple especially if you know that your coworker went through some shit last week, right. Well, a month ago. Mm-hmm. Maybe, Monday, maybe not Monday morning, maybe Tuesday morning, when you see that coworker, just kind of say, hey, how have you been? Mm-hmm. And, in our country, when we say, how are you, it's equal to hi. We don't mean it.
Okay.
So I encourage you all to say, how are you? Mean it. Mm-hmm. And be with that person. Mm-hmm. And most likely your coworker will say, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. And maybe just in an offer, say that, hey, let me know if anything I can do. And maybe just check in. And then again, depends on your relationship. If you are not that close, maybe follow up again, but at the end of the week. Well, check in once a week. If a coworker that you are closer, that you hit up very well, maybe you can even offer a little bit more. Say that, hey, do you want to talk about it? I'm here when you're ready. So depending on your relationship, but the idea is that don't leave that person hanging. Of course, in our culture, we want to be intrusive, which is totally understandable. So depending on your relationship, maybe check in once a day, once a week, once a month. The whole idea, it kind of connects with that reassurance, letting that coworker knows that you are there for that him or her. It could be very subtle. It could be very overt. So it depends. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's, like you said, there's different circumstances. So if I'm talking about my immediate family member, then, there's a wider, bandwidth connection there, if you would. If I'm talking about a coworker, which I'm going to see every day anyway, I mean, check-in doesn't mean, let's have a session, right? It just means, no. Hi, how you doing, buddy? And stuff like that. If it's stranger, which sometimes may happen, then the response may be, different but still appropriate.
Yes. And let me give
So
one more. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Like for example, like back in the days, I know that one of my coworkers, she experienced sexual harassment. So me and her actually weren't that close. And the way that I check in is that I know that she did told me that, yeah, she just met with the HR, therapist and stuff like that. Again, me not trying to be inclusive, but I'm trying to make sure that she knows that she's supported. I know that she would come back to the office after meeting with HR, was seeing a counselor. I would say, hey, how did that go? And if she wants to share, she shared. If she didn't want to share, it's cool with me. But at least letting her know that, hey, I know that you're going through some challenges, so I just want to check in, to see you're
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a lot of questions, but I don't know what to ask because it's such a sensitive issue. It's such a sensitive and powerful moment. If somebody wants to open up and tell you this happened to me, what do you do if you're on the other side, right? Unless you have some sort of a training or an idea. So, what would be our job in that case? I mean, if somebody does come to you and out of the blue say, this happened to me, instantly you are a person of power. You're a trusted individual, and what you do or say can be powerful,
Yes.
or maybe not if you don't know what to do or unhelpful, right? Which we don't want
Yes.
that part. We want to be helpful. And so, what is our job there? Besides, you gave us 5 tools. Listen and help
Yes.
and refer and all that. I can't remember all 5 of them. I remember just 3 of them. But what is our actual job here to really be a person, helpful individual?
Yeah. So the key principle here is it's not about you, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
And another key principle is that most of the time, most likely they just needed to vent. They needed someone to talk to or listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation, if that happens to you, literally just shut up and listen.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be the smart kid. Again, there are societal pressure. There's this pressure that we have to be witty. We have to be the hero. We have to give the best advice. We have to see the perfect things.
Yeah.
Screw that. Remove all that, because again, it's not about you. Because when you start thinking about that, what should I say? I have to be smart. Blah blah blah. That's about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that coworker.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend remove all those thoughts. Sit there and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I have done is, I think it's very powerful, very useful. Ask that person that, do you want me to give you advice, or do you want me to just listen?
Mm-hmm. Can you share experiences? Is that fair?
Yes. So for example, like my good friend, unfortunately she moved away, but I remember like we would open up with each other, and oftentimes I would ask her. And she was going, one time she was going through pretty rough phase, and she was opening up. And I asked her, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to say something later? And she told me that I just need to vent. I just need someone to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. I literally sat there for 10, 15 minutes and listened to her.
That is so powerful.
No interrupt, because sometimes, and then guess what? Afterward, we went to happy hour. Because a lot of time when conversation, when it comes to these quote unquote sensitive issue, mental health, is that we interrupt each other, we give unsolicited advice, and that person that's going through hell just needed someone to talk to or listen. That person doesn't need advice, doesn't need to be interrupted. So my recommendation is start off, just sit there and listen. Don't interrupt. Just let that person talk. And if you feel uncomfortable, ask that, like, can I ask questions? So, yeah.
So thank you. And I'm so bad at that because I catch myself interrupting. Even though I'm aware, I tell myself, don't say anything till they're done. I have the 5-second rule. Wait for 5 seconds of silence before I say something back. But I forget it all the time, which is too bad for me, and but I hope to get better at it as time goes by. So anyway, guys, this is a lot of information, a lot of good information that JR just shared with us. There's a lot to it. So go back and look at the slides that he shared and everything he said, so you can get what he was saying. And I'm going to put his information down here, name, phone number, contact information. So if you want to hear more, learn more, or even bring him to your businesses so he can talk about this stuff, you can do so. That's what he does, and he's really good at it. And please do so if you need his information. Is down here. So I don't have any more questions for you, JR. Do you have any last bits of wisdom to share before we finish up?
Actually, I just want to say that again, thank you, the ones that are watching this. Thank you so much for watching this. And my last one, when connecting diversity, inclusion, and mental health and racism, all these isms, is that like we are, in a way, we are in the same boat. We're in the same boat. Let's practice a little bit compassion, a little bit kindness, and back to what I was saying, and to start out with practicing compassion and kindness, the first step, the easiest step, the most important step, is just be there for someone and listen. Just listen. So
excellent, JR. So with that, thank you very much. I have a surprise question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
So here it is. Other than your own profession that you do now, what would you like to do?
What I would like to do. So I've been working. So this is kind of a little bit shameless pitch right now. There's a short documentary film about my mental health journey as an immigrant. It has received amazing feedback. So what I really want to do is I want to not become a filmmaker, but I'm working with my really good friend. She's a filmmaker, and we want to do something bigger, create like a real documentary, like a mini series. So something very interesting, new that I never thought about ever in my life, career, and now is a potential possibility. So in a way, I'm excited. It sounds scary, but sometimes it's cool.
Excellent. So there's a lot of art in you and in everything you do, and good luck with that. I hope you can get a chance to do filmmaking at some point in your life.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here, and until next time.
Thank you.